was in the 8th and 9th grade, I dated my showcase choir partner, Monica Reese. We were the perfect pair because we were both short and we both loved to sing musicals. But there ended up being this enormous conflict because of a difference in our faith and how our faith was lived out. I was a fourth-generation United Methodist, and Monica was a born-again Southern Baptist. My church was proper. We sat the whole time. We stood to sing our hymns. We listened politely while the minister preached, and then we went home, all in 60 minutes. Monica's church was 2 hours long. There was a lot of hand waving. There was a lot of people running around. There was a lot of dunking into some sort of a hot tub. I didn't really understand what was happening there. But there was also a lot of language about hell and who was going there. In my 14 years, my United Methodist Church never talked about hell. The point when I knew this relationship was over was the week Monica asked me if I had accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I was 14 years old, and I had absolutely no idea what she was talking about. I knew Jesus, but I knew that I didn't know her Jesus, and her Jesus kind of scared me a little bit. It was then that she told me she was deeply worried I was going to hell. And I decided right there that there were some non-negotiables I would have in relationships moving forward. One of them was they had to be United Methodist. Amy is a second-generation United Methodist. We are not homogeneous, but there are certain truths that we don't have to negotiate, and she's never told me I'm going to hell. Yes. I preach a lot to you from the letters of Paul. And I do this because I think those insights into that early Christian community are essential for us. The Gospels are someone's attempt to capture the life and the teachings and the purpose of Jesus, but the epistles, Paul's letters, those are how those early Christians lived into the teachings. That's how they struggled to follow Jesus. Not that the teachings aren't important, but I find how this early group of Christians lived as a tribe, as a community, how they were in it together is really important for us. That Corinth church was a happening place. It was the fastest growing church when you compare it to Ephesus and Galatia and Rome. It's full of energy, it's full of diversity, it's full of people, it's full of egos. And those egos began to bump up against one another, and they started to lift up certain gifts above others. For example, they would say that the gift of singing was more important than the gift of making coffee, which I think would be difficult for me to agree with. No offense. Paul, though, invites us to find the gift in the other person. Do we see the gifts that are surrounded among us? Joe Galima has the most talented hands and feet in the city. Wayne Miter has the gift of bringing the offering plates down, and Wayne does it better than anybody else. Deb Teagan has the gift of teaching. Asher has the gift of asking the best questions and wearing the best bow ties. It's easy. It's easy to find the gifts that are among us. But what do you do when you're in conflict and you look at that other person and you don't see any giftedness in them? What happens when you can't see their uniqueness? Can you say, John is really gifted at breathing oxygen? Or Sally is impressive with how quickly she can leave the church when she's upset? Can you find that redeeming quality. We've spent these last several weeks trying to figure out how it is we're in relationship amidst the political division and our neighbors. And we have affirmed that having a faith that is political with love and compassion is possible. We've talked about how it is we're called to have curiosity with the other person, to wonder about them, and yet, how do you respond when the other person says you're going to hell, or your opinion is wrong, or you are not a faithful Christian? Seeing the gifts is an essential way that Paul invites that Corinthian church to work for the sake of their common unity and their common ground. And we Americans are a rugged people, especially here in the West. We've got this individualism that drives us forward. Paul would not have had that framework. Paul was clear, we are all in this together. And we have to figure out how to honor the gifts of the other person on this journey. One pastor has called this the Mr. Potato Head theology. Can a foot be an ear? Can an ear be a foot? No. Being the community of Jesus, is to recognize we need everyone's unique gifts. That there is no hierarchy of the giftedness we have from God. I am relying on the gifts of others. I have to rely on Joe's hands and feet because my eye-hand coordination is bad enough, and then if you introduce my feet, well, I'm going to fall off the back of the bench. We don't have what it takes to love God, to pray to God, and to follow God alone. That's what makes the complexity of Christianity and its interconnectedness something we need to embrace. We all are in this together. Now, I do think asking curious questions is incredibly important. Here is a way of questions I actually bumped into this week that Reverend Amy sent me. Which life experience has shaped your views? For those who disagree with you, what would you like them to understand about you, or you to understand about them? And yet, to actually lean beyond the vitriol has to mean we lean beyond the curiosity. And this is where we are invited to be people of grace. Because if you cannot see their giftedness, if you cannot ask them questions of curiosity, then I invite you to use the grace you've been given to see their woundedness. What has led that person to where they are today? Are they a veteran from a war in which they weren't honored and they felt betrayed by their country when veterans from other wars were honored? Have they experienced trauma that has informed the way they understand political histories? Do they have a history that you know nothing about that brings them to a place that you don't agree with? But by understanding where they've come, you understand who they are. We are called to be people of grace. Leo Tolstoy, the Russian writer of The Human Moral Crisis and Spiritual Awakenings, has said this: one of the most generally accepted delusions we have is that every person can be qualified in some particular way. Some are kind, some are wicked, some are stupid, some are energetic, some are apathetic, and so on. He says people, though, are not like that. And it's wrong that we label and put people into those understandings, because everyone bears within themselves the complexity of much more than one thing. We are more often kind than we are cruel. We are more often wise than we are stupid. We are more often energetic than we are apathetic. can we offer that graceful response to the person who we are in the deepest political conflict with? There are 36 days until the election. And I think we will need more grace on day 37 than the other 36 combined. And we have to learn and live into now how to be the people of grace that we will need on November the 6th. When new people join this church, I really try to be abundantly clear with them that this community will let you down. I will disappoint you. Someone is going to say something that you will find hurtful and harmful. And if that's the moment you leave, you will have missed the entire point of the Christian community journey, which is to let grace come in us and around us and allow us to be in relationship with one another. To let that grace move in the cracks of our division and our conflict. I realized the other day that while I say that to new members here, I'm not sure I've said it to everyone else. So whether you're new or you've been here 80 years, whether you have enormous political conflict in your family or you can't even engage in the political conversation, choose grace. Choose to fill in the cracks of division with something that considers the uniqueness and the belovedness and the giftedness of the other. Amen.